guards on each level.
Never more than 12.
Hey, welcome back, ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and let's talk about all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things that you might have missed in episode 9 of Andor.
Hey, why are you so dressed up? Is that thing going to trial?
No, actually, I'm applying for a bank loan.
Oh, I hope you get it. What's the money for?
That is a surprise.
Oh, I hope it's treats.
So let's talk about this episode. This episode of Andor is primarily concerned with tasks, jobs, and imprisonment. It's fitting then that it's heavily inspired by George Lucas's first film, THX 1138. Now look, I briefly mentioned this last week when I was like, hey, this episode's a lot like THX. But now we can see these parallels are very deliberate.
What's THX 1 something something something?
Okay, so back in the 70s, George Lucas turned his college film into a feature as part of Francis Ford Coppola's company, American Zoetrope. Now, I should note that this film is not very good. It's a hard sci-fi film with very imaginative visuals, but you know how people said that the characters in the prequels felt two-dimensional? All those flaws are very apparent in this film, but it's still worth a watch because you can see the DNA of Star Wars in this movie. All of George Lucas's first 3 films are about a young man trying to escape an institution, probably because Lucas's dad was a suit and tie wearing guy, and Lucas was a San Francisco-based iconoclast who wanted to change Hollywood. It's fitting then that Andor used THX as an inspiration because this series is set before A New Hope, and that movie came out before A New Hope.
But what are these similarities to Andor?
Well, some of them are purely visual. All of the prisoners wear white jumpsuits, live in pristine white areas, walk down long white hallways, and the entire complex is underground. Of course, Lucas would later go on to repeat these visuals with Attack of the Clones. And just as those clones are treated as units to be moved across an assembly line, so are these prisoners. But besides the visual comparisons, the prisoners do lead lives like the workers in THX 1138. In that movie, everybody's drugged up to suppress their emotions, and they are made to perform meticulous tasks each day. Meanwhile, their health and thoughts are closely monitored by machines and unseen forces. The similarity to Andor is that the workers are given tasks to perform. They're monitored by a robotic voice over an intercom.
Alright, then just back off THX 1138. Back off for a second.
Feet down, face front, hands on heads.
And they're even competing with other floors, like when THX doesn't cause a radiation leak, but the other section does, and so he gets a reward. This is mirrored in Andor's revelation that all of Level 2 was wiped out in this episode. Overall, you can see THX's mechanized society as a kind of precursor to Darth Vader and the Imperial War Machine. Also, both Andor and THX feature Robert Duvall getting off by a robot.
What?
Oh, sorry, that's just THX.
That sure is a wizard necktie. Where'd you get it?
Oh, you like it? It's actually got tiny Millennium Falcons on it, and I got it from cufflinks.com. They're the sponsor of this video. That's actually where I got all the really cool Star Wars and Marvel gear that I've been wearing today. Cufflinks.com is amazing. They have officially licensed merch from Star Wars, Marvel, DC Comics, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, Star Trek, and all sports teams. This is the perfect place to shop for people that are hard to shop for. Like, for instance, check out this scarf, right? Comes in this great box, got this nice Star Wars paper and everything. Seems like a totally normal scarf, but then you look close and you see it's got Darth Vader on it right there. Like right now, for instance, I'm wearing these awesome Mandalorian cufflinks. Plus, all the ties I've been wearing today are Marvel and Star Wars related, like this Black Panther tie. You can't even tell it's Black Panther until you look at it up close, so it's perfect for wearing to the office. I also thought about wearing this Captain America tie with the matching cufflinks. I also have the socks on, and here's Grogu, and Spider-Man is barely hidden in this tie. So cufflinks.com has a special discount for ScreenCrush fans. If you use the code ScreenCrush20, you get 20% off any item on the site, no minimum order required. This is potentially a huge savings, and this is a really great deal, but you have to act soon because the deal ends on December 31st, 2022. Back to the Easter eggs. So THX ends with a chase scene, but the forces pursuing him call it off because the chase is too expensive, and then the character triumphantly rises up into the sun. I'm very curious to see if that ending is replicated somewhat in Andor. So let's get into this episode, which begins with Dedra's interrogation of Bix. Consider the first words of the episode.
I don't like wasting time.
And the episode ends with Andor and the others realizing that they are running out of time to waste because the Empire is going to use them up and throw them out. Dedra also talks to Dex about how fishing is a metaphor for her job.
You pull in the net, and the easy thing is to assume that everything you've dragged to shore is a fish.
And again, this parallels Cassian, who is also a fish, caught in a net and is trying to escape.
You're in my net, Bix.
Mon Mothma is caught in a similar net in the Senate. She's stuck in a weak governing body that actually kind of looks like a net. And of course, Syril is caught in his own kind of trap, love.
I can't get out because I love you too much, baby. Oh.
Nice one, high five. And the fish metaphor is even more apt for the prison, which is underwater like they're fish in a bucket flailing around because they don't yet know that they're already dead. And of course, anytime you talk about prisoners as fish, it reminds you of Shawshank.
The boys always go fishing with first-timers, and they don't quit till they reel someone in.
Now, Bix's torturer really delights in his work, kind of like Chris Guest in A Princess Bride.
I'm sure you've discovered my deep and abiding interest in pain.
Dedra pretty efficiently dismantled Bix's little smuggling operation, which worked like this. Salman Pack, this guy, went to a separatist meeting. Remember, separatists are one of the rebel factions against the Empire that Guerrero mentioned in the last episode.
Krieger's a separatist.
I'm guessing they want to restore the Confederacy of Independent Systems, which was left over from the Clone Wars. Pack met a woman there who gave him this somewhat untraceable communicator, and then Bix used that communicator to get in touch with Luthen.
So she's a rebel?
No, she only used the communicator to sell him stolen gear because of the planet they're on. Ferrix is in the Outer Rim, but it's also near enough to Imperial traffic that people offload a lot of Imperial stolen goods there. Of course, Dedra is only interested in Luthen, who she has codenamed Axis. And after she works all this out, I love this little eyebrow raise. So good. Oh, and what's this behind her? Oh, dear God, is that a hexagon?
No, not the beast! Not the beast!
And by the way, if you like that Not the Beast joke, support our channel by getting your very own Not the Beast shirt at our merch store at shopzeroedition.com, link in the description. Now, back to the prison, where I would like to address the fan theory that Andy Serkis's character, Kino Loy, is the genetic template for the clone Snoke in the sequel trilogy because Snoke was played by Andy Serkis.
Oh wait, he's Snoke?
No, he's not. Stupid theory, but a lot of fun. So, the episode frequently cuts back and forth between a few storylines, which, when it's not done right, can be jarring, like in the Book of Boba Fett. But Andor has a way of cutting to characters who are facing similar predicaments, so the cuts feel natural, and we're linking these experiences together in our minds. For instance, Dedra is torturing Bix to find out where Cassian is, so we go to Cassian, where we see that he's become invested in his work and is reluctantly becoming a team leader. So this takes us back to Bix's torture, where the torturer is enjoying his job.
Oh, the restraints are nothing to be feared.
He makes her listen to the screams of people the Empire thought were expendable. So we cut back to the storyline about the prisoners finding out that the Empire thinks that they are expendable. We see Cassian and the other crew working on their escapes right after Bix listens to the screams of people who could not escape. Every story features the same feeling that a noose is slowly closing around our necks. When they tortured Bix, notice this smash cut. It's exactly like when Leia was tortured in A New Hope. Part of Andor's escape plan is sneaking off a little each day to try to cut off a pipe. And he can do this because he's worked out that they are not actually under surveillance, because the Empire doesn't think they are a threat. This goes all the way back to what he said in Episode 3.
They can't imagine it.
Can't imagine what?
That someone like me would ever get inside their house.
Another character who is trapped in a net is Mon Mothma. Like I mentioned earlier, the Senate even kind of looks like a fishnet.
But how is she trapped? She's rich and powerful and so pretty.
Well, she is trapped by this overreach by the Empire and a completely apathetic governing body who's just letting it happen. In this scene, she's arguing against legislation that is called public safety, but it actually just gives more power to Emperor Palpatine.
So this is how liberty dies. With thunderous applause.
She can see the Emperor growing stronger and weakening democracy, and she can't do anything about it. During her speech, senators are leaving, just turning off the lights. Now, in Star Wars, light is always used as a metaphor for good. The light of the Jedi, the light side of the Force. And here we see the darkness of Palpatine is taking over the Senate, one seat at a time. She's even shouted down.
Legislation.
And that kind of thing is happening like right now, like when Joe Wilson shouted, "You lie" at Obama during the State of the Union.
Those who are here illegal. Not true.
Mon Mothma calls the Senate a temple.
Those of you who still believe that when we enter this building, we are in a temple.
And we know what the Empire does to temples. Later, we get the surprise that Vel is Mon Mothma's cousin, which explains how she got in touch with Luthen. But you know what? We should have guessed this because last episode, Cinta pointed out that her family was very wealthy.
Who would you say you are? Maybe I'm a rich girl, running away from her family.
Oh, and later on, we see that her suitcase is actually just a regular cooler.
Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
We get confirmation that Mon Mothma and handsome banker dated.
You remember Tay Colma?
I do. Mother's old boyfriend.
Like I said, they're gonna smash. After all, Mon Mothma already has one secret lifestyle she's hiding from her husband, so why not two? And then this gets us right back to these prisoners, where Andor is trying to play a little politics of his own. He wants to get Kino Loy on his side to help them escape.
You never think about escaping?
But Kino actually believes that they will get out if they work hard and do their time. But the events of this episode change his mind. Melshi from Rogue One even spells this out.
They could keep us here forever if they wanted.
Funny how the series begins with Luthen trying to recruit Cassian, and now Cassian is trying to recruit Kino into his own mini rebellion in the prison. Cassian says,
You think they're listening? You think they care enough to make an effort?
As we cut to the people who are listening, the Imperial Security Bureau. Thanks to Dedra, they've connected Andor to the robbery on Aldhani. Now they mention a rebel cell associated with Maya Pei, who Guerrera mentioned in the last episode, and this person is a Neo-Republican.
Maya Pei's a Neo-Republican.
And then, just as they say,
We're on her full time.
we cut back to the prison where the men are being monitored by the Empire full time, and they learn that 100 men died on deck 2, which takes us to another man in a prison, Syril, except his prison is his mom's house.
You've been in my private box. I have ways of knowing.
His mom notes his haircut and improved appearance, which Syril has changed because he is in love with Dedra. Now, my favorite thing about this scene is how he used slurping his soup to drown out his mom talking.
When you could easily ignore me. Imagine I cracked under the...
Syril is in another kind of prison because he's in love with Dedra, and he's obsessed with her.
Just being in your presence, I've realized that life was worth living.
He talks about how she restored his faith in justice and beauty, and even uses romantic language like,
I want what you want.
Now, I think he's become obsessed with her because she offered him a lifeline out of his miserable existence. But it is interesting that we can feel sorry for people like Syril, because these are the kind of followers that enable fascism to rise. People like Syril never question authority or think about the morality of their actions. They just want to enforce a rule of law that was determined by someone else. But he's still wanting to fight for justice, much like Dedra, Vel, and Mon Mothma. So, as the episode goes on, all the various nets begin to tighten around our characters. Dedra has traced the stolen Starpath unit to Steerguard, where Cassian stole it from.
From our target list?
No, random, but he's using a stolen Imperial masking unit.
Mon Mothma can't cover the funds she's embezzled, so now she has to go meet with the gangster. And Dedra has captured a pilot who worked for Anton Krieger, a separatist operative who Luthen wanted Saul to meet in the last episode.
The man is an ox. Slow and stupid.
That's strong.
And the final net to tighten is at the prison. Everyone is kept isolated from one another, much like the rebel cells that Luthen is trying to unite.
We need to pull together, Saul.
Kino Loy is at the crux of this escape plan. Up until now, he's been a man of authority, someone who had a lot to lose if he tried to escape. But after the old man has a stroke, Kino Loy slowly realizes exactly how little he means to the Empire. When the old man first has health problems, he's not taken off the line. He's expected to work out his sentence with just 40 days left. And then when the old man has a stroke, the doctor just puts him down like a wounded draft horse. And the man wants to make sure that the man isn't even humanized.
Look at me, brother.
His name is Olaf.
I don't want to know his name.
And notice the doc is also a prisoner because the Empire would never actually pay a doctor to assist inmates. And instead of calling for a nurse or more medication or a machine that will help and read this guy or some Bacta, he callously calls out for a bag, like the old man is just trash.
I need a bag and a trolley.
And then Cassian finally gets through to Kino.
Cheaper than droids and easier to replace.
The Empire doesn't see them as men serving sentences. They're not people. They're things. They move down hallways like robots or clones on an assembly line. Then they toss the old man out like a busted machine. And Kino learns that like any machine, they're going to be destroyed when they're no longer useful. Last episode, Luthen talked about how he wanted the Empire to be more brutal.
We need the Empire to help. We need them angry. We need them coming down hard.
Because this would inspire more people to rebel. And this is what happens in this episode. The Empire fried 200 inmates. They let this old man die of a stroke and threw him away. And this is what finally pushed Kino over the edge to join Cassian's escape plan. Like Dedra, he's tired of wasting time.
I am a lineman for the county, and I drive the main road.
Hey, Doug!
You're in a good mood. Did you get that loan?
I sure did, and even better, I got this free toaster when I opened the account.
Did you get a bank loan just for a free toaster?
Yep, now I just repay the bank loan and I get to keep the toaster. High five! So let us know if you found any Easter eggs that we missed down in the comments below, or you can add us on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.